Hi, I'm Scott Wrighton and I serve as Decatur City Manager, and it's always my pleasure to come here once a week and offer these videos to give you a little bit of an update about what's going on with your city government. As many of you may know, some of the COVID numbers have started to come down. The daily number of cases as well as the positivity rate for Decatur and Macon County have come down a little bit. That's extremely good news, but it should not be interpreted in any way as a reason to let down our guard. The vaccination rate for the county still sits at about 45%, which is still below our neighboring counties and certainly below the vaccination rate for the state of Illinois. So we still encourage people to get vaccinated. The city has no immediate plans for any kind of vaccine mandate for its staff, except where Governor Pritzker has mandated that, which affects principally the fire department. We should all continue to be vigilant about social distancing, about mask use indoors, and other just common sense decisions about large groups so that we can prevent the spread and make sure that these declining numbers continue to be declining well into the future. I'd like to talk about several other topics with this session with you today. The first is I want to mention to you that last Friday, the City Council did what we call strategic planning. They do this every 2 years or so, where they sort of take a break from some of the normal work that they do in it's twice a month city council meetings, the normal business of running the city and managing services, to step back a little bit and say, okay, where do we want the city to be in 2 years, in 5 years? What are some of the main priorities that our staff and city council should be focusing on? Because the simple reality is that in local government, there are so many demands for resources, there's so many demands for our time, that we have to make decisions about where we should identify the principal priorities. And of course, that should start with your elected officials, the mayor and city council. And so what they did is they took half a day, a little more than half a day actually, and had a session where they would identify what some of those priorities are. Now, I'm not going to share all the details of that right now because it hasn't been finalized by the city council, but once they finalize that planning document, I plan to give you a little bit of an update about it in some of these sessions, and we'll probably publish it as well on our website and on other places so that you can take a look at that. But I want you to know that your city council is working hard to make sure that they're thinking not just about right now and what's happening today, but also the future of Decatur. The last time they did this was in 2019, and so 2 years later, 2021, and the number one goal both times was neighborhood revitalization. Now, the neighborhood revitalization strategy, we call it a roadmap, a series of strategies that are intended to improve principally the urban core of the city. When you drill down just a little bit further, you'll see that the revitalization strategy of the city really has 4 principal components. The first is, frankly, we need to demolish things that have to be demolished because there's no choice. Those properties, those buildings have deteriorated to the point that there's no reasonable way to rehabilitate them. They simply have to be cleared out. I'm frequently asked, well, okay, if you're going to tear it down, then what are you going to put in its place? Well, the reality is sometimes we don't know that until after it's cleared out, until after any contamination on that property is taken care of. Then and only then can we start having conversations with potential developers. So first we have to get it demolished. So the first leg of the revitalization stool is demolish what has to be demolished. The second leg of the revitalization stool, that roadmap, if you will, is revitalize and through rehabilitation structures, especially homes, that can be saved. If we don't step in to rehabilitate homes that are still have viability to be rehabilitated without excessive cost, then sooner or later they're going to be on the demo list as well. And that's why your mayor and city council have dedicated a significant amount of money from the federal relief programs for rehabilitation, and we'll be partnering with several local nonprofits and other organizations, as well as eventually individual property owners, for how we can get revitalization funds directed to these projects. One of the reasons why rehabilitation hasn't happened more aggressively in Decatur is that the math, the real estate math of rehabilitation is such that if you buy a house for $20,000 or so, and then you put $80,000 of repair into it, and you've got $100,000 into it, its fair market value in some neighborhoods is nowhere near $100,000. And so what our rehabilitation program has to do is essentially fund that gap between the actual cost and the fair market value. And we have been working very hard to develop criteria and program rules for exactly that kind of thing, so that we can partner both with property owners as well as with not-for-profits that are already engaged in different kinds of programs related to rehabilitation. That's the key second leg of the stool of rehabilitation and revitalization. The third leg of the stool is code enforcement. There needs to be more aggressive code enforcement than we've had in the past. If, for example, slumlords are allowed to continue to rent properties that are really not fit for human habitation, through code enforcement, we need to intervene in that and require more aggressively than we have in the past that they fix up those properties, and that there be more oversight of properties that are deteriorating. So that's code enforcement is the third leg of the stool. The fourth one is what we've come to call at our staff level here, catalyst projects. Neighborhoods in the urban core where a key high visibility project, like the new Johns Hill School in the Johns Hill neighborhood, or a project with the New Durfee Old Garfield School at the corner of Oakland and Grand, which we're trying to work out with a potential developer, and other catalyst projects, high visibility, comparatively large in size, that can serve as a way of priming the pump, of getting revitalization going in that adjoining neighborhood. The other thing that I want to say about revitalization, besides that these are the four stools that make up the strategy, is that our revitalization program is not limited just to what's happening down in Johns Hill. Although the Johns Hill area certainly has been an area of a lot of visibility, in part because of the generous contribution of the Buffett Foundation. Properties are being cleaned up down there, private and public properties. There's a significant investment in public infrastructure. And as predicted, it's having some impact already, because even properties that we may not be touching as a part of our plan, people are saying, yep, the neighborhood's looking better, I'll go ahead and put new siding on, or fix that porch that was sagging, or whatever it is that's necessary to be done. And that's exactly the catalyst effect that we want to have, because the city of Decatur can't touch every single property in the urban core. So we have to have a way sometimes of indirectly dealing with those. If you have questions about the city's revitalization program, please feel free to call me or a member of our community development staff. Of course, we also understand that the city's resources can't be exclusively directed at the urban core. We have many citizens, of course, who live outside the urban core, and we have a responsibility as we plan for a new budget, as we plan for new street programs, for new water and sewer lines, to balance our obligations to all parts of the city and not just focus on the urban core. We realize that, the mayor and council realize that, and I think that you'll see as we disclose even more details for the 2022 budget about streets and other infrastructure that we're trying to maintain that right balance. But we also understand that there has to be, at least to some degree, a disproportionate investment in the urban core. Otherwise, it will affect the success of the city going forward. The last topic I want to talk about today is sort of an early warning. The way that garbage and recycling is picked up here in the city of Decatur has been controlled for several years by an ordinance adopted by the city of Decatur that regulates how the private haulers pick up garbage. That ordinance is reaching the end of the life that it was intended to have when it was adopted. It's the one that prescribes what monthly fee the haulers get, and it provides guidance on exactly how we do our bulky waste program, how we do our recycling, how we do our yard waste. And with the change in haulers that's been going on, there have been several haulers that have sold or have merged, and so the environment of who the haulers are is changing. That ordinance is going to have to change as well. And so later this year, we'll have some public meetings where we are reaching out to citizens and saying, here are some of the changes we think need to happen because of changes in the market with regard to recycling, with the fact that we get a lot of complaints about the yard waste, so we want to find a way that is more acceptable to citizens who are trying to get rid of their yard waste. We have problems with certain landlords that abuse bulky waste disposal when people move out of their apartments, and that creates problems in certain neighborhoods. So, but garbage is something that I've discovered people feel very strongly about, and that's okay. So when we have some suggested revisions for the city council to be considering to the garbage ordinance, we'll be reaching out through this video, through our website, through the many other ways that we reach out to you, and we encourage your feedback. On this subject and many others, we encourage you to give us feedback. You can call my office or you can use the website and that helps us communicate more about what's going on with you. So until I get an opportunity to do that next time, thanks for listening.